We're good? Should be. All right. Then I will call to order the August 5th, 2025 meeting of the Indiana Alcohol and Tobacco Commission. I will note that we have a quorum. Next item on the agenda is the disposition of minutes from the July 15th, 2025 hearing.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, we've received a copy of the minutes from the Alcohol Tobacco Commission on July 15, 2025. I've reviewed those. They are appropriate. I move acceptance of the minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, item on the agenda, prosecutor's recommendations.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, we've received a report from the prosecutor regarding alcohol fines collected. There were a total of 87 in the last period for a total of $54,050. There is one of note out of Allen County, Heights Pub and Grub, Inc. It involved a police investigation, Indiana State Police and others in the area arriving on scene, and they found an intoxicated male inside the business in a fight. They reviewed the video. Arrests were made based upon the evidence and everything in the history. Violations were written for public nuisance, failure to maintain high and fine standing, and failure to fill out a manager's questionnaire. The parties have agreed to a $1,000 civil penalty and a 3-day suspension of the alcohol permit. I move acceptance of the prosecutor's report.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item, consideration of applications. There are 573 renewal applications.
Madam Chair and fellow members of the commission, I incorporate by reference this list of 573 applications for renewal. Those have been recommended by local boards and reviewed by said staff with authority of the commission. I hereby move for approval of the same pending any needed escrow hearings. Further move for inclusion of this list as part of today's minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item, 37 new and transfer applications.
I incorporate by reference this list of 37 permit applications for a new permit or applications for changes in ownership or location or both for existing permits. Those have been recommended by local boards and reviewed by a commissioner. I hereby move for approval of the same pending the final floor plan approval by the state excise police and an escrow hearing if needed. I further move for inclusion of this list as part of today's minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. 68 catering applications.
I incorporate by reference that list of 68 permit applications for catering. Hereby move for approval of the same and further move for inclusion of this list as part of today's minutes.
And second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. 13 direct wine shipper applications.
Last but not least, I incorporate by reference this list of 13 new and renewal direct wine shippers permits. Hereby move for approval of the same and for inclusion of this list as part of today's minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Waivers of fees for letters of extension.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, we've received a report of waivers of fees for letters of extension. I move approval of same.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Items for discussion. The first item for discussion is DLA 233715 GTBE LLC. This is a renewal with the local board voting 2-1 to deny. It was continued from our second meeting in July.
Yes, Madam Chair, from fellow members of the commission, this matter, as you indicated, is before us. It's been continued previously. There was a local board vote for to deny the renewal. That vote was 2-1. We have received numerous items of legal research as well as positions taken by various members of the community in regards to that denial of the renewal. I would note, however, that it's come to light that when this permit was in front of the local board originally for the granting or the denial for consideration, of the transfer, that was in 2024, I believe, that publication of that notice wasn't done, unfortunately. It was an administrative error. Apparently, the first publication of notice was sent to the paper that was published. However, it had the wrong address in it. So when it was reset for another local board hearing in regards to the transfer, that matter just didn't get done. So in light of that failure, I would move that we withdraw our approval of the transfer and remand this matter to the local board for consideration of the transfer of the permits.
Second. Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
We had looked at the issue of the posting of the orange sign, and I don't think that we found any issue with the posting of the orange sign, so send that information to the local board that that's not an issue that needs to be brought up. Do we
I think they're gonna need to start over again,
start over again?
the transfer.
I wasn't persuaded by the orange sign. I understand there was construction, but we frequently have businesses opening where there is construction. The orange sign was posted. It's a sign we provide. So I don't find issue with the posting of the orange sign. I think development and new businesses frequently go hand in hand with areas of construction. So I don't want to set a precedent where you can't open a new business, you can't apply for your permits in areas where there are construction.
I would just comment that, there's an incredibly complicated, detailed filings in this matter. And, as pointed out by Commissioner Jones, this goes back to some real details at the front end of the system and the importance of how the details of the application process are to the whole issue. And to have a publication notice not be made, points out that everyone involved needs to make sure the details are done.
Well, and there were 3 issues with publication that month. We got 2 of the 3 corrected through manual processes. But this was part of what I asked to be verified last month, and our council did a good job.
Did a great job.
Tracking that down.
Right.
And reviewing the issues in this case. Any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next permit is RR 711262 University of Notre Dame, Duloc, catering hall designation request.
Yes, this is a 209 permit. It's been in existence for quite some time. This is a location that's at the top of the Pittsburgh Library. It's not open to the public. They've asked for it to be designated as a catering hall, and I move that we allow that designation for our 711262 University of Notre Dame, Duloc.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those, is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RR 4911398 Tri Entertainment LLC, requesting permission to file a transfer. This was previously on our agenda, I believe, back in
April.
yeah, late winter, early spring. We tabled it indefinitely because there was still a pending violation that had not been addressed. That matter has now been addressed and settled with the prosecutor. So I will open that for discussion of the request permission to file a transfer.
Yes, it was before us on April the 1st, and for a consent to transfer due to that violation, we did, as the chair states, we did indefinitely place them on hold. and have wanted the violations settled. There were 2 violations, both happening in 24, and they have been resolved as of the end of last month. The permit, is in an expired status, on March the 4th of 24. It, it's, there was on the violation settlement, there were agreements to that. First, that the permit will, go into escrow, that any, transfer will be arm's length, that there will be a new location, that the 2 current owners will never hold a alcohol permit again in the state of Indiana. With that being said, I am going to, move to allow, this to move forward to find a buyer. And I'm gonna give 30 days, for a buyer to be found. And again, it needs to be arm's length and new location. And that is for RR 49-11398 Tri Entertainment LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I failed to mention that we want to make this, also location pending.
Okay, I will show that as part of your motion.
Thank you.
Is that also
Second.
second? Is there any further discussion?
Yes, I have a hard time with this. Given the record of violations that Tri Entertainment has had, they're numerous, and serious. The last violation that was pending that caused this matter to pen was settled, and by agreement, Tri Entertainment admitted to, among other things, failure to disclose interested persons, falsification of records, reputation and character, food requirement, and others. That was that batch, the most recent batch of violations. I understand that we have, I don't want to say routinely, but we have on several occasions granted permission to transfer permits where serious violations have occurred. Those transfers including obviously changes in ownership. And I suppose the motion and the second here is consistent with what we've done in the past. I just think at some point we have to look at these matters and draw the line and say these are serious enough matters that have been admitted to or been found true in a hearing. And so sometimes you're gonna lose your permit. So that's my position, and I think the industry needs to be aware that just because we've been doing this frequently doesn't mean we're gonna continue to do it ad nauseam.
Agree.
I agree. I think at some point, what becomes too much for us to tolerate and say, okay, well, now you can sell your permit. I understand the argument. It keeps permits active in a community, may lead to further economic development if you get it into the hands of the right person that's gonna operate lawfully. But it doesn't seem like we're seeing less violence at bars, and at some point, maybe the deterrent nature of the consequences have to be increased.
And this also involved not just the violence, operations were a mess,
Right.
just to put it nicely.
Yeah, which I think we frequently see when the operations start to dip where they're ignoring the requirements of Title 7.1. The violence and the people intending to commit violence see that as an opportunity or a space where that will be allowed. Any further discussion?
No, ma'am.
All right, with that, I'll say I'm a wary
Yeah.
yes on this one, but I'm growing increasingly concerned with voting yes on these. Call for a vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no.
No,
Motion carries 3-1. Next matter for discussion is RR 91-42601 Sandbar Restaurant and Grill LLC. a request for remand by the local board, all up in that matter for discussion.
Yes, this is up in Monticello, and we did get a request by our excise officer to look at this permit again. There have been some undercover purchases at this location, which just came to light, that happened before possibly the location opened. Local board, I'm gonna move that we remand this to the local board to reopen this and look at this permit again for RR 9142601, Same Bar Restaurant and Grill LLC.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I would just note, and maybe Commissioner McGinn noted this, but I would note that this is a request by the local board, in fact, for the matter to be reviewed. And I'm in support of that.
Yeah, I think information came to light. It sounds like almost immediately following the vote and the hearing.
Yes.
So with that, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next permit is RR 4631995 BNG Enterprises LLC. This is a request for remand by the local board.
Yes, this is from Laporte. This permit was issued back in 2016. It did expire November 26th of 24. Local board heard this in July for a renewal, and there now have come to light possible undisclosed convictions dealing with the owners. I'm gonna move that we uphold the request from the local board to remand this to look at possible convictions that have just come to light for RR 4631995 BNG Enterprises LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, or is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Next matter for discussion is RR 2031631 Numera Incorporated. This matter comes on for an extension request.
Yes, this permittee is in Elkhart. They have a partial extension until today, August the 5th. It went before local board. They didn't have a quorum. It's been continued until August the 21st. There was an open violation hold, which has now been settled. It was paid on July the 24th. I will note that this permittee has had problems in the past. They were on our enforcement program called PACE. They did very well while they were on PACE. Since then, they had some problems again. I think they know how to operate legally. They need to get back on that. We have received a corrective action plan, which is one thing we asked for since our last meeting. I will note on the corrective action plan, it was just submitted on August the 4th. A lot of the things that they state that they are going to do are proactive things. They say they will implement, they will train. I would like to see them come back and tell us when those items are going to be completed. But I thought the corrective action plan was good. They just need to actually complete it. With that, I'm going to move that we grant an extension for RR 2031631 Numera Inc. for 90 days.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Do we want to set a deadline for submitting information related to completion of those items?
Sure. How about we set in 30 days, we'd like an update on when those items will be completed, either have been completed or with a date when they will be completed.
Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item is RR 4937264 317 Barbecue LLC. This matter comes on for an extension request.
Yes, they had some ownership issues. We did receive information here on that. They still have, one, transcription error on that that needs to be corrected. I'm gonna ask for that to come in within the next 30 days. But I'm gonna move that we grant the 30-day extension and final extension for RR 4937264317 BBQ LLC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? I would just note, this has to do with a consent to transfer stock or shares. If getting the signature on our form is difficult, if there are shareholders meeting minutes, court orders, anything else that can supplement to show what shares went where, we can take that and have that considered as well. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for consideration is RC 2110883 AMVETS Post 11. This matter comes on for an extension request.
Yes, this is up in Connersville. This is a beer, wine, and liquor fraternal club. They did expire in April. They have an extension, which took them to July 17th. I hope they haven't been operating since then, because legally they couldn't. They did have a violation. It was back in 16 for employee permits. They were late in filing as what they stated their reason for extension. I'm gonna move that we grant a second 90-day extension for RC 2110883, and that's post 11.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is RR 4028815. Salea Incorporated. This matter comes on for an extension request.
This is up in North Vernon. They did expire in May. They haven't had an extension until July 31st. Again, hope they haven't been operating since then because legally they couldn't. They were delayed in getting insurance. We now have that. They are set for the local board on August the 18th. They have one violation. It was back in 2018 for serving a minor. I'm gonna move in, they also have an underlying permit RR 4028816. And I'm gonna move that we grant a 90-day extension for both those permits, RR 4028816, 15 and 16, Salea Incorporated.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I'd just like to say, they gave us an extension request in May, said they forgot the renewal date, which I understand. But their most recent extension, they didn't give us a reason, so I just would like to have some appreciation for the fact we have one and their reasons for them, and I'd like to know on occasion why they're not ready after a first extension.
I agree. Sometimes we have to track that down and guess based on local board dates or something like that, so completed forms make these processes easier and may make us more inclined to grant your extension, so
Agreed.
keep that in mind as you're submitting. With that, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next application for discussion is RR 5333898, Copper Creek Grill Incorporated. This matter comes on for an extension request.
Yes, this is down in Bloomington. They did expire back in March. They do have an extension, which took them till June the 28th. They have been expired for more than 30 days, so they do need to new inspection by excise or an updated floor plan affidavit. They have a DOR tax clearance letter that we were waiting for. We did get on July the 29th. They do not have any violations. They're set for the local board now in Monroe County for September 3rd. I'm gonna move that we, grant a 90-day, extension for them to get through local board and back through us. And during that period of time, we do need the, either updated floor plan affidavit or, a visit from excise to view the floor plan. And that is for our 5333898 Copper Creek Grill Inc.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for discussion is RR 49400045 Miami's Garden LLC. This matter comes on for an extension request following denial of the permit. There was a timely appeal filed, although I did notice some of the appeal documents had DL instead of RR in the caption. But overall, the references were to Miami's Garden LLC. I'll open that matter for discussion.
Yes, as our chair stated, this was denied by the Marion County Local Board on July the 7th. We did uphold the denial on July the 15th. Since that time, there has been a corrective action plan that has been submitted. While they have had a lot of problems in the past, I did find the corrective action plan does spell out a lot of detail, which hopefully is correcting the problems they had in the past. Some highlights of that are that they are closing slightly earlier. Sales are closing at 2:45. Containers cleared at 3. There is a ban list, ID scanners. They are searching and wanting. They have a zero tolerance policy. No in and out. They are also using off-duty enforcement officers, especially for clearing the lots. I hope they'll adhere to and pay attention to their corrective action plan so that they're not before us for any further problems. I am going to move for a 90-day extension for RR 49400045 Miami's Garden LLC.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I would just say that I probably would be voting no on the extension, given some of the historical events here. But I think the cap that was submitted was very good. And given the cap and the expectation on our part that that cap is followed and maintained, and the fact that they've had a number of inspections since the last violation from excise, and excise has commended them on their changes in the way they're operating, I will vote in favor.
I would note, while I like some of the stuff in the corrective action plan, one thing caught my attention, and they mentioned that they fired a security company and retained a new security company in June of 2024 after an incident. But then in November of 2024, they had another incident. I couldn't tell if it involved an employee or a contract agent through the security company, but there were representatives of the business in the parking lot pointing firearms. They detained a female, handcuffed her, struck her in the face after she was handcuffed. So if these businesses are going to use security companies or have their employees engage in these sort of quasi law enforcement activities, I think they need to think seriously about what training should be required, and use of force policies. We have a law enforcement division. We take very seriously the use of force policies. They include, how to engage with a detained subject who's already been placed in handcuffs. All right, with that, all those in favor of granting the extension, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. No. Matter passes 3-1 in favor of granting the extension. Next matter for discussion is RR 4319043, Green Golf Partners LLC. This matter comes on for an extension request.
Yes, this is up in Syracuse and, they do have some private equity, in their company, which is causing them some issues on disclosure of ownership. Why they've been delayed on that. They, did expire in May, 25. They have an extension, which goes until August the 14th. They're asking for a second 90-day extension. They did have one violation back in 13 for serving a minor. I am going to move that we grant a second 90-day extension for RR 4319043, Green Golf Partners LLC.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I would just expect them to get this all figured out and paperwork submitted to us before they would need another extension.
Right. Noting that, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next item for consideration is RR 69040. Let me start over. RR 6904809, Ben Wilson Enterprises Incorporated.
Yes, it comes to us from Batesville. It did expire on April 29th of 25. They did have an extension, which ran until July 29th of 25. They haven't been operating since then because legally they cannot. They have had some violations in the past, and one pending one. The ones that have been settled for March of 25 for employee permits, in 2021 on food requirements and sanitation, in 18 for house rules, gaming, food and unauthorized beverages. There were other violations before that. They also have an outstanding violation from last month. That has been set for a settlement conference on August the 25th. Since they're moving along, hopefully to resolve that violation. I will move that we grant an extension, but I would like to see a corrective action plan. So I would like to give them until our next meeting, or I'm sorry, the meeting in September, which will be September the 3rd, to submit the corrective action plan. And that will be after the settlement conference. So just an update as to, if there was any action at that point in time that can be reported, just if it was held and that sort of thing. Corrective action plan, extension until September the 9th. And just noting that settlement conference again is scheduled for August the 25th. So that extension for RR 6904-809, Ben Wilson Enterprises.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion?
I just wanted to comment, the document that I have, request for extension filed July 31st of this year, states the reason for the extension says, quote, due to the new rule of having liquor liability insurance, it is difficult to find. I don't fully understand that, but it's not a new rule, it's been in effect for a year.
I forgot two things on that. I'm
Okay.
sorry, can't read my own notes.
Okay.
We did, receive information on the insurance, but we're gonna ask, we didn't get the actual declaration page. We're gonna ask, our, processors to get the declaration page for us before the end of the next extension. And also there was a DBA name mentioned, that we do not have on file. So if there's a different DBA, we need, that updated too. Sorry, I forgot to mention that we want, those two also before September the 3rd meeting.
It sounds like potentially they've gotten the insurance figured out. I think in 24, the insurance requirement passed with minimum coverage of $500,000. What we learned is that potentially that was over insuring some businesses. And then providers were starting to leave the Indiana market because of those issues. In 2025, the legislature changed it so that the insurance requirement is mandatory, but there is no minimum coverage amount. So perhaps it was at some point difficult to obtain that, but the problem has been corrected, where now you just have to maintain liquor liability insurance based on your business's risk, legal compliance, and the factors determined in the market, instead of having that minimum $500,000 threshold. So when we send the notice of what we're looking for, maybe we can clarify that and make sure they know they're not currently obligated to find $500,000 in coverage. Although depending on the nature of the business, that may be appropriate, but it's not a statutory requirement.
I'm just suggesting that we've talked about these extensions, and this is a fairly, in my experience, new emphasis. It was the phrase, a new rule. It's been a rule for a year that troubled me. And when he then said difficult to find, does that mean they haven't had any for a year?
They did produce a receipt. We
Yeah,
did
right.
have, some information on there. We just didn't have the declaration page. We thought we needed the declaration page, from the coverage.
Right, with that, all those in favor, I believe the motion was for an extension until September 3rd.
Correct.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, there are two extensions to add to the agenda. Those are Royal Petroleum, permit number DL 4932087, and Exceed Expectations are 4934236. Can we take it by consent to add those to the agenda?
Consent.
We'll show those added to the agenda by consent, and I will call or Royal Petroleum DL 4932087 for discussion.
Yes, this is a grocery store here in Marion County. It did expire on May the 2nd. They do have an extension until August the 2nd. They do not have any violations. I move that we grant this second 90-day extension for DL 4932087 Royal Petroleum Inc.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, is there any further discussion? Seen any? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Exceed Expectations are 4934236.
Yes, this is here in Marion County. They did have a violation that has property tax outstanding. There is a hold on their record. We do need that settled before we can issue a second extension. They did expire back in May. They do have an extension until August the 17th. They did appear before the July local board. It was continued until August so that they could settle the violation. Again, that has been settled. And they are now scheduled for the August 4th local board, for renewal, or local board's review of their renewal. Grant a 90-day extension, conditional upon receiving first the property tax clearance for RR 49-34236 exceed expectations.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Inactive files, there are 2 permits on the inactive list that we did receive renewal applications for. Those are RR 8902-714, El Rodeo number 10 LLC, and RR 4941544, Paz Bottle Works LLC. Can we take those by consent to remove them from the list to be made inactive?
Consent.
All right, I will show then that there are 11 permits to be made inactive. There a motion?
I move that we incorporate by reference these list of permit applications being made dead and hereby move for approval of the same and the inclusion of these lists as part of the minutes of, they were already included as minutes, sorry, to be made dead today, August the 5th, 2025.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. There are 14 permits that will be made inactive on 8/19/2025 if we don't get renewal applications. So make note of those if they're yours or your clients, get those renewals on file. And then I would just note, the first meeting in September is moved to Wednesday, September 3rd because of the Monday Labor Day holiday. Not seeing any other items on the agenda unless someone tells me I'm missing something. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.